hello people, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome to a brand new series on the channel where we are going to recreate Knox Country from the game Project Zomboid in Cities Skylines 2. Popular Ponderosa has already made us a stunning replica of Knox County, which is also available for you to download on Paradox Mods should you wish to play along with this series. But what is Knox Country? It is a 1990s Kentucky-inspired rural area that in the game Project Zomboid is infested with zombies. However, because we are building it in Cities 2, I hope come the end of this project that we can look back over this map and it function almost as a pre-infection Knox Country before the events of Project Zomboid. If you haven't played Zomboid, I thoroughly recommend it to you, and one day I do plan to introduce a noob's guide to the channel for that game. It is probably one of my favourites of all time, behind our city builder franchises. So look out for that one day on the channel. But this is a super peculiar map. It is super flat. There is literally no hills. The entire map is on the same height. Very distinctive 90-degree angle rivers. Lots of fields, countryside, and cute little towns to get involved with. So this should easily be one of the most, if not the most, unique projects that we attempt on the channel. And I think once this series is done, I will probably upload an entire supercut of the build so you can watch it from start to finish in one go. But that's likely quite a while away yet. One of the biggest challenges that will face this project is nailing the scale, the towns against the map. However, with these grids available via the overlays, and by the way, all the resources I'm using for these videos, including the Zomboid map, are linked in the video description if you want to come and use them for yourself. With these lines turned on the image overlay, a 3x3 area of these yellow tiles is equivalent to one Cities Skylines map tile. So we can see as an example here, this is the town of Rosewood, and we can see that the majority of it should reside mostly within one map tile. And it would be quite important that we don't take our eye off of this as well, otherwise I think the project will begin to look quite weird. So we'll respect it as much as we can, pretty much across the city. Popular Ponderosa has a full video over on his channel as to how he made the map, so if you're interested in more of that, check out the link to him in the video description. I am playing with a pretty basic mod set here, Move It, the line tools, all the extra mods that come from Paradox Mods, alongside some quality of life recording stuff as well. All of the region packs are also present in this series, although I imagine we won't end up touching most of the European ones just due to the stylization of this city. And we will dip into Paradox Mods as and when we see fit for further mods if we need them, and textures, decals, and anything else that we might need to help bring this city, I guess, to life, if you'll excuse the pun. But let's get started, shall we, with our first episode of Project Skylines. Welcome to Rosewood. So we're going to start Rosewood off here by opening up a couple of tiles and using the image overlay mod. This image file will be linked to a Google Drive in the video description, but it is absolutely crucial just for helping us develop the initial road structure for Rosewood and indeed the rest of the city. It translates pretty well to Cities Skylines actually. Coming into this project, my biggest worry is going to be the scale, making sure it feels appropriate for the distance and the sizes that are present in Project Zomboid. Popular Ponderosa has done a phenomenal job in just making this map to scale and playable, so don't forget to check him out. He's linked down in the video description. But we get the town frames set up here, sketching out everything across the overlay to give us an initial structure to begin working with. The roads down, I wanted to start placing some key buildings, including the police and fire stations, and then began to place the first housing, really kind of working from the middle outwards in Rosewood. A lot of the UK housing was pretty much perfect for the vibe that's present in the town, with lots of two and single family homes making up the bulk of the residential. Used another fire station to replicate the church, And then immediately I wanted to get the fence in behind the fire station, such a iconic bit of Rosewood and a base for many of us, I'm sure. With some initial services down, I wanted to work on the school. Tried the UK one, but it was a little bit too big, so we ended up going with the base game Elementary. I'm really referencing our inspiration in Rosewood to align parking with the building, and then also some more fence work too. After this, we throw in some car parking spaces that can be found around the town and add in the rest of the housing around the elementary school. Just a collection of single-story homes really, nothing too big in this part of the town. And after all this was in, we're starting to see something that looks something like Rosewood. Turning our attention now towards Main Street, lots of the northeast mixed-use assets were pretty much perfect and exactly what you see in Zomboid, shops on the bottom and apartments on the first floor. Did end up throwing in the UK Med Clinic as the courthouse, but I end up changing this out later once we grab the static ploppables mod, and then also throw in the gated community, another super popular base location, behind the mixed use on the main street. Main Street in, needed to turn our attention to the supermarket. I throw in a parking configuration here that gets changed at a later date, but just one of the larger 6x6 commercial buildings to replicate a supermarket. I did try a few unique buildings here, but they were simply too big for what I needed in this space. Some more parking spaces to begin accommodating another super popular location in Rosewood, a motel. Fusing two different motels together, leaving a little bit of concrete tile space out front, with the reception area actually being very reminiscent of the one you see in Rosewood. Turning our attention now to another super popular location in Rosewood, the gas station, which also makes a wonderful base. Thankfully, there's tons of gas station assets in the base game, so just using two of the smaller ones to create the pumps themselves, with the overlay on to make sure we match the scale. And hopefully you can get a sense of that scale now. It actually translates surprisingly well into Cities Skylines too. So hopefully it won't be as much as an issue as I thought it would be coming into this build. A little European residential building makes up the actual gas station itself, with some plot parking next door, and then we'll also use a bit of northeast commercial to place in what in Zomboid is a car garage here. A nice little kind of brick industrial-esque commercial building. Sits nicely in between the petrol station and the supermarket. Now that the town centre was coming together, I wanted to turn my attention toward the countryside on the western edge of Rosewood. I placed in an actual farm here just so we could see some tractors moving around, because of course in the game these are totally dead and not being worked anymore. But the rest of it is going to be custom surface work. And there is a lot of surface work in this build, and I imagine across the rest of the map when we do eventually finish. Placing in the log yard here, sketching in some sand textures, of course, using the overlay again. And you can see how crucial already that overlay is to the project. It really just helps you gauge the distances between these different areas of the town. Some log props go in, and we'll be back here with some fence work toward the end of the episode as well. Jumping now to the very, very far west edge where there's another gas station and a little drive-in cinema, which turns out really nicely actually. Make sure you hang around and see what we do with that. Sketching out some surface work using the image overlay again and just the similar sort of gas station props we brought earlier. You can see how many there is when you just search for gas in Find It. There's hundreds of them probably across the two different themes. And a couple of commercial buildings and a bit more parking to complement what we see on the map here. I get the placement of the sand slightly wrong here, so we'll end up reworking the fence. But there's a lovely little commercial building out here. And it turns out Zomboid is like super good inspiration for just small town layouts. Like the idea of the drive-in cinema and the little parking orientations against the buildings and the distance and scale of everything. It's yeah, turning out to be fantastic inspiration already so early into this project. And with Rosewood being the smaller of the towns, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into a larger one and seeing how that turns out. With the screen, there is no TVs in Cities 2, so I had to get creative with one of the larger billboards. Tried a number of different pillars and eventually settled on the vertical, I think the train pillars we end up using to kind of frame the screen exactly like what we see in Zomboid as well. Looks really cool. And a fun repurposing of some CS2 assets as well. You guys will have to let me know, would you come and watch the Boot and Bug movie? Back to more countryside work now, where we're going to start sketching in some more fields using a different number of things. We've got the base agriculture surface, some of Sully's stuff, and some of the more popular ground texture surfaces on Paradox mods. I'll leave a lot of them linked in the video description with the mod set if you're interested in grabbing them. There's a ton of little farmhouses out here. They're super simple. They're just little 1 to 2 story homes with maybe a barn, a chicken coop around them. Next we come on to the prison, which was easily the most challenging part of Rosewood. Kind of put this off until the very end. But again, as always, the image overlay coming in absolutely crutch. Went with some of the fire watchtowers to indicate the watchtowers that are present on the perimeter of the prison. And a huge shout out to Sully for passing me his tall baseball fences. You can check out Sully on YouTube, makes some of the best modded Cities Skylines content you'll ever see. But he borrowed me these wonderful tall fences from his own personal local asset collection, which are a much more appropriate alternative to an actual prison fence. The prison surface itself is mostly made up of basic concrete and sand textures, so nothing too challenging, just sketching them out against the frames of the buildings. Starting to place in some buildings now, dropped in another police station just so we could have some services coming back to here. And then for forming the actual prison itself, this is where we grab the static ploppables mod. And I'm actually using a sub building from the modern medical clinic to help form up the prison. It's just kind of a generic grey block with some windows on it, which when you fuse it all together with Move It and placing them, you can actually create quite a convincing prison. I was much happier with how this turned out coming into the project, thinking this would be the most difficult thing to create, but I actually really enjoyed how it turned out. The front of Rosewood Prison is like some kind of wood canopy building, and there's also these antennas present on the police station and the prison themselves, which also came from the Japanese ploppable. But these little wooden roofs from the vanilla police station were pretty much perfect for what I needed at the front of the building. Returning to a bit more fence work now just to help define some of the, I guess, prison yards that are present on here, and also replace the car parking out the front, and just amended the front of the fence with some further car parking to replicate what we see out the front of the prison. Once this was in, started to work on the entrance, which has a little security booth, so switched over to the highway roads here, hooking them into the current alleyways that allow people access to the prison. And then we'll grab one of the tall booth props and a little bit of surface work just to create an authentic little security entrance for Rosewood Prison. I also noticed on the map that there's some power lines on the high street, so introduce those as well. And then returning back to the prison to keep redefining the yards that we see within the complex itself. Looking back over what's here in Zomboid, there's a basketball court and 3 benches in the prison, so really wanted to replicate the props here. And also included a couple of trash containers that you can see on the map as well. There's also some little concrete pullover spaces for each of the guard towers, so it took some time to bring these in for each of them too. And there's also several kind of light poles and a pattern all around the prison. So made sure that we placed these, which actually do light up at night, which is a very nice little bonus aesthetic for us as we enjoy the night views towards the end of the episode. With Rosewood Prison mostly done, I decided to return to more farm work where there's more endless field work to do. I have a feeling this is going to be a pretty common theme across Project Skylines. Lots and lots of surface fields. If you have any texture suggestions for these on Paradox mods, please leave them in the comments below. And if you've made it this far into the video, maybe leave a little zombie emoji in the comments for those that didn't. A lot of these farmsteads out in the west end of Rosewood have little, just fenced off gardens behind them, almost like chicken coops you can imagine. So using some of the network lanes to help reinforce these, and placing the houses where we see them on the overlay in the context of all these different fields. There's also some well-trodden dirt paths around this bit of the town as well, which of course Sully's riverbed thin texture is absolutely perfect for recreating, in my opinion, the best surface on Paradox mods. Placing some more farmsteads here now, we get involved in some more surface work. What almost looks to be like a little vegetable garden, a place to grow plants or vegetables or other small crops. Really wanted to bring this into the project, and the surfaces did a surprisingly convincing job of actually doing this. Some trees scattered in amongst those fields as well. There's a whole bunch of residential being used here, Chinese, Japanese, base game, North American. And they all blend pretty well into this rural style I'm finding. With the bulk of the town now coming together, I wanted to return to some earlier areas, adding in some chain link fencing that's present in the log yard. And now with the overlay on, we're actually starting to see something that resembles Rosewood. It's starting to come out much better than I anticipated it to. We're turning to the main street to bring out a lot of concrete and tile surface that we can see on the map. I tried to differentiate the textures here. In Zomboid it is a lot of very clean concrete, but CS2 has some more vibrant textures, so I decided to run with these rather than just that super smooth concrete everywhere. Also added in the bar and the bonds building that are present in Rosewood right at the back of the town. As I mentioned earlier, we reformed this car park. It wasn't getting much use and I do want people parking here, so plopped in a ploppable one and then just reformed the textures around it to replicate what we see in the map. There's some final little outerline dirt roads and some other country connections that needed to be made on the outskirts of the current map tiles. And also the single farmstead on the very eastern edge of Rosewood. Returning our attention back to the courthouse now, I wasn't happy with the way the UK MedClinic was looking, so ended up using some of the static ploppable northeast police stations and one of its upgrades to create the courthouse, which actually turned out really nicely. Some parking configurations around it, and then lots of surface work and props to complement what we see at the front of the courthouse, which is just planters, benches and general recreational municipal space. And then also thrown in some lines of plant pots to help create planters. And then finally adding in some more finer details like the fencing around the back of the police station. And then because we removed the med clinic, I needed to add in another one, otherwise everyone here will die. So I replaced one of the commercial buildings on the edge of town for a small med clinic and then just budged over the diner a little bit. The final tree work also going in, alongside the last fence around the back of the houses, near to the elementary school. And then more further final touches, a bit more surface work in some of the more open spaces, with some more tree brush just scattered in. The concentration of trees in Zomboid is very specific. There's almost like very dense forestry plantations and then kind of open fields within those forests. So something I want to try and respect as the project develops. I also noticed just in between the drive-in cinema and the petrol station on the west end of town, there's almost like a little electrical substation surrounded by two concrete safety barriers, some wooden power lines and a couple of dumpsters. This might be my favourite little detail of the episode actually, such a small little addition but a really nice thing to add onto your rural networks. And after all that, we're left with something that looks a little bit like this. I'm super happy with how this came out. It looks much more authentic than I ever anticipated it to. And if you have enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave likes, comments and shares below. This video took a lot longer to produce than normal, so let me know if you have enjoyed it, and indeed if you would like to see maybe some live play included in this series rather than constant post-commentary time-lapse. An enormous shout out to the YouTube members and patrons that support these videos, with a roll call to our golden patron eggs: Bad Wolf, Blythe, Casino, Greats Z, Jamin, Louis Adlam, Michael W, Phoenix MD, and Spartan Angel. Thank you so much indeed for all your support. Links to Instant Gaming and Patreon down below if you'd like to support the channel. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching the first episode of Project Skylines, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.